I'm Max Resitar from Slam Magazine, and today we'll be looking at some of our favorite sneakers ever worn on an NBA court. Michael Jordan. So the photos you're looking at here from May 7th, 1995. It's the first time that MJ ever wore the 11 on court in the Concord colorway, of course. MJ was not supposed to wear this shoe in this game. Tinker Hatfield, his legendary sneaker designer, gave him a few samples to look at. This is right after he came back from baseball. You know, he played in 17 regular season NBA games to finish out the 95 season. Then in the second round of the playoffs, he told Tinker, yo, I'm going to wear these shoes. Like, there's nothing you can do to stop me. But Tinker was saying, nah, they don't come out till November. Like, they're not ready yet. And then he wears them and boom, lightning, bottle, every cliche you could think of. Shoe takes off like crazy. He goes on to wear the Concords the entire season. They win 72 games. In the playoffs, he's wearing the bread 11s, the black and red. That's a combination. They win the 4th championship on Father's Day. He cries hysterically. He misses his late father. He's rolling around on the floor and he's wearing the bread 11s in that moment. And then there's a famous photo of him in the locker room after he's crying. The biggest smile. He looks like the Joker. He's smoking a cigar. He's got the championship hat on. He's still wearing his jersey. And his feet are kicked up on the table. And you just see the outsole of the bread 11s. And it's a masterpiece. It's the best of the best. So you put all that together and it all equals into, hands down, no argument, no competition, the best basketball sneaker ever made. There's nothing that even comes close. Technology, yes. Colorways, yes. History, yes. By far the best. Patent leather, first time we'd ever seen that on a basketball sneaker. Carbon fiber, first time we'd seen that in a basketball sneaker. Laces inspired by basketball net. Mesh upper, first time we'd seen that. This is his best shoe, and that says a lot because MJ has the best signature sneaker line of all time. Any sport, any basketball player. LeBron James. This was a game in December of 2017, in year 15 for LeBron. This was his last season with the Cavs. This was really the first moment that we knew how special the LeBron 15 would go down to be in sneaker history, in LeBron sneaker history. But this moment right here happened in Washington, D.C., and this was LeBron, honestly, just understanding the magnitude of being LeBron James and the power that his voice and his actions carried. He wore one white shoe and one black shoe. They each had a quality plastered on the side of them. And when you zoom in on photos of these sneakers, Nike put the word equality in almost as many languages as they could find. On the white shoe, they're done up in white, and on the black shoe, those words are done up in black. So it's tough to see when you look far away. And this is, of course, LeBron's history with the White House is well documented by now. He had a few tweets going back and forth. So this was LeBron's way of, you know, he wasn't trying to be rude to anyone. He was just trying to say, we're all in this together. Let's be in this together, and let's find a way to move forward. Black or white, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. Let's just find a way to move forward. This shoe would go on to be super limited release. They released 400 pairs of each colorway, and then proceeds were then donated to the Smithsonian after that. This was just a way to propel the message that LeBron started with these equality 15s. Kobe Bryant. Man, Kobe's history in the game of basketball deserves a book, a movie, 10 of these videos. It deserves way more than this little moment, but if we could pay tribute to Kobe's innovative mind right here, even beyond the Grinch 6s that we're looking at, because everything that Kobe did was in a mission to A, get better, and B, to win. He was heavily involved in his signature line with Nike. And part of the reason for that is the things that Adidas didn't end very well with Kobe because they didn't really take his input. So with Nike and Eric Avar, who was a legendary sneaker designer who worked on a bunch of these Kobes, Kobe was involved down to the millimeter. He would talk about the airbag. He would talk about the inflation on the airbag. He would talk about uppers. He would talk about shoelaces, collar heights, heel cups. He would talk about everything. He would talk about TPU and EVA foams. He knew everything down to the exact millimeter. So before we even talk about this Kobe 6 right here, we have to talk about the Kobe 4. Because the Kobe 4 was the first Nike in modern Nike history to be a low-top basketball shoe. But the Kobe 6 right here is an evolution of the Kobe 4 and 5, which were both low tops. Kobe 4, depending on who you ask, it might be the best Kobe of all time. Kobe 5 then built upon that. And with this Kobe 6, which is in my opinion the best Kobe of all time, and we're looking at, in my opinion, the best colorway of all time, the Grinch, the Kobe 6 took what those two shoes did and it elevated it with storytelling. So you still had a low top sneaker, you still had the heel support that was instrumental in preventing ankle sprains, because the whole thing that people were always afraid of was if you wear low top basketball shoes, you'll sprain your ankle, which isn't the case. Avar and the team, they found that if you put the right heel lockdown in a basketball shoe, your ankle will be stable. So that was the secret formula. And now once you had that, they added a plastic layer on top of the Kobe 6, on the upper of the Kobe 6, to mimic snakeskin. And this goes back to the Black Mamba. This goes back to Kobe being Kobe and winning and being relentless and never giving up and having no fear. So they put that type of mentality, the Mamba mentality, on the Kobe 6 here. And its debut happened on Christmas Day against the Heat with this Grinch colorway. And again, this goes back to Nike using these big moments, Christmas Day games, All-Star games, the Olympics, finals, playoffs. They use these big moments to make statements with footwear. And this was a huge statement. There was no way that this colorway matched Lakers uniforms, but the NBA let Kobe run with it. And to this day, the Kobe 6 in this Grinch colorway is an extremely elusive shoe, extremely sought after, extremely well respected. And it is because not only of its amazing design, but it really is a representation of Kobe's mentality and, you know, all that he left us with and all that we saw him grow into be. Man, if this isn't the most polarizing sneaker in basketball history, I don't know what is. You know, a lot of people really hate this shoe, and a lot of people have developed a new love for it now that the time has passed. But no matter what you feel about this shoe, you feel it like really passionately. And that's because it is one of the most uniquely designed sneakers that we've ever seen in the NBA. It was designed in conjunction with Audi. So, you know, you have a hood-like upper, just like you would have a hood on a car. It hid the laces underneath the hood. You had the midsole built into the actual upper, which was kind of crazy. Like midsoles are defined as midsoles because they're a different part of the sneaker. You want to have something you can land on when you're jumping up and down. So to build that into the upper of the shoe, unless it's done perfectly and with like expert craftsmanship, might not work out so well. And of course, this was the shoe that some people say forced Kobe to buy himself out of his Adidas contract. Just because of its forward-thinking design, to be diplomatic. The best part of this shoe is opening night of the 2001 season. Kobe played in the USA-themed colorway of the shoe as a tribute to 9/11. So, you know, this was an early indication of just how well Kobe would use footwear to tell stories. And it was an amazing tribute. They played the Portland Trail Blazers, which they were a great team back then. Big game opening night. This was ring ceremony night for the Lakers. For their second chip of the three-peat. And that's definitely the most iconic moment for the Kobe 2. Didn't have many others. He stopped wearing the Kobe 2 by the time they got to the finals in 2002. He went right back to the Kobe 1 because he didn't really want anything to do with this sneaker anymore. But it does go down in sneaker history. Whether you love it or not, whether you hate it or not, doesn't really matter. It's extremely famous, and it's part of the amazing sneaker history of Kobe Bean. Allen Iverson. So as you can see behind me, we got pound for pound right here. We got Bubba Chuck right back here. One of the best players, one of the most influential players in all of basketball history. And the reason that Allen Iverson became Allen Iverson, you can trace it back to Michael Jordan. He loved Michael so much that he wanted to follow in Michael's footsteps by being different. When Reebok approached him and said, yo, let's be different. Like, don't just wear Jordans like you did in college. Don't just wear Nikes like everyone else. Start your own thing. Start your own wave. Be your own man. They came up with the Question Mid, which is, to me, a top 5 basketball sneaker of all time. Just like the nicest, most premium tumbled leathers on the uppers, super soft in the toe box. Collar was beautiful. And then they had the Hexalite technology in the midsole, which was, it's based off of honeycombs. Honeycombs are one of the strongest natural structures that you'll ever find. They get their strength from their uniformity, from their connectivity. And so Reebok found a way to mold their midsole cushioning into this honeycomb-like structure. They call it Hexalite. This was included in Chuck's Question Mid, which is the shoe that he wore for his unbelievable Rookie of the Year season. And he was just doing all this, all the exaggerated 1-2 yo-yos, all that type of stuff. And we really saw him become pound for pound and start to make his way to be one of the best of all time, one of the most influential of all time. You know, AI, just like Mike and just like Kobe, just like KG, this was a man that just played with a fearless passion. And so it spoke to everyone that wanted to be like him, wanted to play like him, wanted his kicks that you see right here. So you mix all that together and you have pound for pound, one of the best to ever do it. PJ Tucker. we got to go back to the future real quick. So we got to talk about Marty McFly and the Air Mag. If we go back to the Future Part 2, famous scene, Marty McFly gets some auto lacing shoes. And this was a sneaker. It wasn't fully functional yet. They had dudes laying on their stomachs behind Michael J. Fox. They were like pulling these little strings to make everything look like it was automatic. But even that was thought up by Tinker Hatfield, legendary sneaker designer, the best of all time, the Picasso of our time, Mozart, whoever you want to call him. And he came up with this shoe of the future. It was a super tall shoe, like almost a boxing boot type height. It said Air Mag. Like, it had a bunch of stuff that people in the 80s weren't really used to seeing. And so that colorway, that specific colorway, is the direct inspiration for the shoe that you see PJ Tucker wearing right here. So for all the innovations that the Air Mag presented, now you look at this Hyperdunk, which is the 2008 model, the debut model of the Hyperdunk line. Hyperdunk line will continue for 10 different versions. But this 08 Hyperdunk, extremely influential, extremely technologically advanced by the time it came out. It's inspired by the cables that hold up bridges. So Nike designers were trying to find a way to cut weight. They were trying to find a way to make light basketball shoes because, you know, the athlete was evolving and growing, and you had dudes like Kobe, 6'6", who could easily take a beating, but that he could also fly. He was doing different stuff on the basketball court. And so they were trying to find a way to make a light but supported shoe. And they looked at these bridge cables that held up these massive structures without a ton of support. You know, you look at the Golden Gate Bridge, you look at the Brooklyn Bridge, it's not a ton of support that you see on the sides of that type of stuff relative to the actual structure that we drive over. So they found out that if you strategically place these cables in the right spots, they can hold up and support a massive amount of weight. So when you look at this Hyperdunk, you see the lines that go this way and this way all through the clear side of the shoe. That's called Flywire. And Flywire is the innovation that they were able to come up with, that they were able to get inspired by the bridges by. And so PJ, you know, he brought out this incredibly influential sneaker in LA because Kobe Bryant was the person to debut the Marty McFly Hyperdunk way back in the day. He showed up in the DeLorean for the launch of this colorway, just like in Back to the Future, just like Marty McFly would have done with Doc Brown. And so PJ, being the sneaker king, understanding moments, understanding the significance of where he's playing, understanding all these different factors, he broke these out. He changed out the white laces. He put in some pink laces, which was a super fire touch. And it just really does separate PJ Tucker as a sneaker king, because I'll tell you what, those sneakers right there are super difficult to come by. Nate Robinson. Man, shout out to little Nate. So we're here in 09 at the dunk contest in Phoenix. And the reason that the Kryptonite foam positive light was created was because of the 2008 dunk contest. When Dwight Howard stepped out the foam booth, he became Superman. He was dunking from like 35 feet away, just like catching the ball and just like throwing it into the rim just like that. He was flying like Superman. So Nate, he wanted to beat Superman. And what beat Superman? Kryptonite. And so Nike was able to hook up little Nate with these amazing PEs. They say NR on the side of them. It's part of the Foamposite line. And the Foamposite line started with the Arizona Wildcats, technically in 1997, Mike Bibby and the guys over there. This was a sneaker that was made for Penny Hardaway, but Mike Bibby and the Wildcats debuted them before Penny, the Foamposite 1. Foamposite is this shell-like material that's placed on the upper. It's this heavy plastic, but the amazing thing is that if you wear it enough, and we're not talking like, you know, you can't wear it for 2 weeks or 2 months, you got to put some like legitimate wear into it. But the thing will start to mold to your foot. So you put up with the heaviness of it because it will start to mold to your foot and give you this one-of-one feeling that you can't get in just another pair of off the shelves. So the Foamposite line has continued for years. It's been on everyone's feet since 1997. You know, you go down to the DMV in Washington, D.C., you see everybody wearing foams, Foam 1s and Foam Pros. That's like the official sneaker of the DMV. And then you go through from the Foamposite 1 into the LeBron 4, which had a Foamposite material on it, into this Foamposite Light, which Nate wore. The Foamposite, huge part of Nike's history in designing basketball footwear. And this moment right here, man, they just cooked up an amazing colorway. Nate won the dunk contest. He comes down off the rim. He takes off the shoes. He holds them up like a gladiator, like, are you not entertained type of thing. And, you know, this shoe is forever linked to Nate now. Even if you don't have this exact colorway, but this Foamposite Light will forever be linked to Nate. D. Brown. At the 1991 dunk contest, D. Brown is out near half court. He reaches down and he starts to pump up on the tongue of his shoe. He starts to run towards the rim and everyone's like, yo, what's going on? What's going on? He covers his eyes and he dunks blindly in the dunk contest. Blindly, whoever knows how real it was. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Shout out to D. Brown. But he wins the dunk contest. And all of a sudden, the Reebok Omni light just blows up. And this is part of Reebok's renaissance in the 90s, using the pump technology. That's what he was using on the tongues of his sneakers, was to pump up his shoes to give him an added structure of support in the ankle area of his shoe. So the Reebok Pump is now part of a bunch of different Reebok sneakers. It launched in 1989, and then you fast forward to this moment in 91 with the Omni Light. The way that it works, there are these inflation chambers within the shoe. So once you reach down and press on the actual pump device, the shoe will pump in air and it'll contract to your desired amount of lockdown. Revolutionary stuff for 1991, when production material wasn't where it is now. The materials that they had available to them certainly wasn't what it is now. So Reebok created an all-time classic silhouette with an amazing amount of technology in it. And this is also, Hex technology was included in this shoe just like it was included in the Question Mid. But D. Brown, man, synonymous with the pumps forever and ever and ever. It's been retroed a few times. It will go down in basketball sneaker history as a very defining shoe for a very defining dunk contest. Kevin Garnett. A lot of people know KG for his time with Adidas. When he was winning the chip in 08 with the Celtics, he had his own face on the side of his shoes. I don't know how people feel about that. That's kind of crazy. But before Adidas happened, before he signed with Adidas, he was Nike from 96 to 01. So he had his own signature shoe. He had two of his own signature shoes. And before that, and in between that, the Garnett 2 never really got off the ground. But he was famous for wearing up-tempos. He played in Concord 11s. And once the Garnett series did officially launch, the Garnett 3 was by far his best shoe of the whole line being two shoes. But it was a very revolutionary shoe. It used nice leather and mesh uppers. It had a zoom airbag in the forefoot. Its defining piece of technology was the tuned air piece in the back of the heel. Tuned air was made popular in the Air Max line a few years before it hit KG's signature line. But it's a separated air unit in the heel. Nike found a new way to manufacture the air that passes through those chambers. Unfortunately, KG's work with Nike ended soon after that. But the KG3, very underrated part of sneaker history. If you do know about it, then you know that things were really looking up for KG's Nike line if he had continued to stay with the swoosh. But luckily, we do have the KG3. It retroed in 2015 under a different name. They removed Garnett's branding from the shoe. It seems like it will always be destined to be a sneaker for the heads, something that the general public might not always appreciate as much as it deserves to be appreciated. The most amazing thing that I've seen in basketball footwear and that I've studied in basketball footwear is the connections that people now form to sneakers and the memories that they connect to not only a play on the court, but first time that they saw a shoe on the court. The technology advancement that we've seen in footwear has been amazing, and now we have self-lacing shoes, and Adidas has 4D printing, and they have their Parlay for the Oceans thing where they're trying to help save the environment. That's all beautiful stuff, but the most amazing thing to me is the memories that we now form with basketball footwear, and it's the reason that I'm sitting here today talking to you guys.